My name is Sierra. I've been working with Dr. Young and Collaborative for about a year now. I am now a functional medicine health coach through the Institute of Functional Medicine. I also work as a registered nurse, and this is going to be a lecture on creating healthy habits and general wellness coaching. So there will be a couple of points during the lecture, where it might be helpful for people to jot down some of their ideas, or we have a couple of exercises throughout the lecture. So if you just have like a pen and a piece of paper handy, and there'll be a couple of points where it might be helpful to share your thoughts. So feel free, like Dr. Young said, to put them in the chat, and we're happy to answer and stop, and we'll have some questions at the end.
Awesome. I'm so excited to do this with Sierra. So for those who don't know me, I'm Lauren Young. I'm a naturopathic physician at Collaborative Natural Health Partners in Manchester, Connecticut. I am the first of several naturopathic physicians who are medical staff with ECHN, which is pretty exciting. And one of our main passions is bringing wellness education to the community. So that's why we're doing this tonight. And I've gotten to work with Sierra for a while because health is a journey and no one's perfect. Actually, I don't think perfect isn't healthy in my mind. And so we're really we're committed to constantly improving ourselves and setting goals for ourselves. And that's kind of what we're diving into tonight. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to write them down and send them to us. And otherwise we'll get started.
Awesome. All right. So when we think of wellness, there's so many components that go into wellness. It's an interconnected web. And when one strand of that web gets tugged, it can really throw the whole web off kilter. Sometimes we really need to focus our energy on one specific part of our wellness, while other times we need to take a bigger aerial view and look at our life to know what we really need to work on. So this right here you're looking at is a wellness wheel, and it's a tool to, kind of do a self-assessment of what your overall wellness looks like. So I'll just kind of dip into each category here. So our health and our well-being, kind of your general overall feeling, how you feel about your health, and how you would like to experience your health maybe 5 years from now. And then our family and friends, how fulfilling are your relationship with your family and friends, and the level of closeness and support you feel in this category. Next, we have personal growth and development, the time and energy we spend on making ourselves better, looking at what we do on a daily basis for, personal growth, whether it's reading or some sort of education. Our partner and our significant other also plays a huge role in our health and well-being and our satisfaction in that aspect of our life. Also, having time for fun and recreation and joy, and being able to, let loose and just, experience those small joys in life. Our physical environment, so where we live, how like our access to certain things, if we have access to nature, or if you're satisfied with your living environment. Also our career, is it a good fit for you? Do you feel like you're connected with your meaning and purpose when you're at work? And then money is, the stress that we feel around money, if we have the ability to take care of our basic needs. So I want everyone to just kind of look at our wellness wheel here and maybe give yourself just an overall score of your satisfaction. And then if you have a piece of paper, taking the time to connect those dots on that wheel and see, when you look at it as a whole picture, would your wheel be able to turn?
I think that's a really interesting part with the wellness wheel, is that it's the evenness of it all, like making sure that nothing's like significantly off with it. For example, like, if you have everything going for you, but your health is off, that divot is really going to impact a lot of things in your life. and as making sure that it's, wellness is a holistic picture, and it's not just one aspect of things. The first time I ever did this wheel, I did it, and I loved a lot of things, but I didn't love my kitchen. I would come into my house and I would like, there was no mud room, and I would like have to dump all my stuff, and like my kids would visit me like right in the and so when we like got a mud room and redid our kitchen so the flow is better, like it sounds silly, but that like up leveled my happiness so much. And it's one of those things where you're like, it doesn't have to be a complete kitchen makeover, but it can be as simple as like, if I rearrange my room, or if I decluttered, I mean, that's a huge one. Decluttering can really up level your physical environment, or get a standing desk. That kind of stuff can really make a big difference to your, and so you realize that that divot can really impact a lot of aspects of your life for sure.
Yeah, and that's such a great small example of just a little adjustment in one area can really impact your whole wheel. And then, it's interesting to think about at different point in our lives, our wheel can shift. Even, month to month, our wheel can shift significantly. Even, some people love the snow, some people love the warm, and that can really impact your physical environment. Or if you're dumping a lot of energy into one area of the wheel and neglecting another one, it can really just cause a pretty dramatic shift.
I think that what you just tapped on was so key, because so when I work with the residency program, the doctors that are at ECHN, the first year of their residency, we would do a retreat, and we would have them all do this. And then every year when we did the retreat, we would save a copy of it. And then so at the end of their third year of residency, we'd give them all of their versions, and they would dramatically shift. And inevitably, like, they're a little overworked, they're a little underpaid, they're a little like, like, but it was interesting that like it did shift dramatically even with those aspects. So knowing that things are temporary is really important when you're working on goals too, knowing that you're going to be able to shift this stuff.
Absolutely. All right. So by looking at that wheel and, kind of taking a little bit of an assessment of what your life is looking like now, it might have sparked some, maybe some visuals in your brain of, what is your vision for health and wellness? And everybody's vision for health and wellness can be completely different. So another opportunity for you to maybe take out your pen and paper and just kind of write some keywords for what your specific vision of health and wellness looks like, what you're doing, who you're with, how you're spending your time, what your energy feels like, who you're connected with, what meaning and purpose you're bringing to other people around you and yourself. So just take a minute or so to put some of those visuals on the piece of paper. And this is really going to be key for developing new habits and, really starting with the end in mind.
I read an article recently about mindfulness and health and wellness, and how to like kind of visualize what you want. And it was interesting because one of the comments was, if you ever notice the feeling of jealousy, that's a sign of something you want in your life that you're missing, right? So if you can think about any time that you've been feeling jealous, whether it's, I've been feeling it, I don't know about you guys, the rest of us, like travel, right? Like COVID left us all like in our homes, and now that I have a nice kitchen, it's okay, but like in our homes a little bit more. And so travel just seems like something like I really want. And so that is something that I've found that I like, when I noticed the jealousy feeling, I was like, okay, that's something I have to put into my vision, is I want to travel more. So you can check that with yourself, whether it's a coworker that you want to like strive to build a skill set, or it's whatever, when you notice that feeling, that's another sign that's something that you want to change for yourself.
Yeah, that's a great example. All right. So when we think about creating habits, I'm sure we've all, made a New Year's resolution, or told ourselves, you know, we're absolutely going to do something. But at the end of the day, change can be pretty difficult. It's not easy. However, throughout this lecture, we're going to definitely give you some strategies to make these habits lasting, make these something that you can keep yourself accountable to. But we just wanted to share some facts that, so we had a study that showed that, you know, for New Year's resolutions, about 23% of people gave up just after 1 week and 81% gave up after 2 years. So those are pretty, you know, startling statistics, and just shows that like creating healthy habits can be difficult, but in the right way and with commitment and with support and, you know, breaking down a little bit of the psychology around them, they absolutely can be done.
Awesome. If anyone wants to share, you can either direct message me privately or you can write into the group. Like if you had a New Year's resolution and what it was, that'd be kind of fun to share.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did you have this year?
Did you have one, Sierra?
I did not have one this year, but I'm actually really proud of one that I completed at the end of this year. So I have a really big hankering for potato chips, and I was eating them like almost every day when I got home from work, and they were just addicting. So that was my New Year's resolution. I allowed myself to eat any other chip besides potato chips. So I made it really specific. And I did not eat any potato chips last year. So I was super proud that I kept that one.
That's impressive. Good job.
That's my weakness, crunchy and salty.
So yeah, so there's adding or there's subtracting when it comes to goals, and we'll get into some more of the SMART goals that you make. One of mine last year, I don't know if I did this completely, but was to be bad at something on a regular basis, because it meant that I was trying new things. And so sorry to anyone who saw some of my other lectures. I'm just kidding, but like but I think like my point was like I was I have a high standard for myself, and I was staying in my safe zone a little bit more than I wanted to be. So I was like, all right, you got to get out there and ice skate when you're not good at it, you know.
For sure.
So yeah.
So anybody have any they want to share that they've either tried or
Donna,
try?
yeah, we have one gratitude journal, which I love. That's so therapeutic and healthy. And I love picking up a hobby when you're feeling like snacking or when you're feeling stressing. So like crochet is a great one. I picked up knitting the same kind of way. Keep your hands busy, and especially if you're watching TV or something passive. Oh, and meditating daily. That's a beautiful one as well. Awesome. That's an impressive one. That's hard to do. Great job. But they're very doable at the same time. If you like, you know, meditation every day and no potato chips every day, that's great. So yeah, so let's dive into the next steps. What makes change difficult, Sierra?
Yeah. So a lot of times we think it's just going to be easy. So that would be wishful thinking. You know, we don't really put the necessary thought around it, and we just think it's going to come naturally without, you know, setting ourselves up with the right steps to be successful. Also, if we view it as a punishment, so using negative reinforcement as opposed to a positive reinforcement is not going to be as sustainable. A little tongue twister there for me. So not focusing, you know, on the positive aspects of it, but, you know, talking negatively to ourselves, or, you know, doing something really extreme, like an extreme diet. It's just not going to be as successful in the long term. And then also keeping our goals realistic. So if we have an unattainable goal, such as, you know, here, this example is running 5 miles every day. If, you know, in fact, we just need to get our shoes on and, you know, maybe run or do some stretching for exercise. So we just have to be realistic and break down our habits into, you know, small steps. And also, you know, if we don't do this unattainable goal, such as running 5 miles every day, we're probably going to be more likely to be upset at ourselves and go back to punishing ourselves or give up, totally because you didn't miss or you didn't hit your target for that one day. So it's just going to lead to more like, I like to think of it as, keeping the promises you make to yourself. So if it's an unattainable goal, you're just not going to be building that confidence in yourself to keep the habit going. So here, you can go ahead, Dr. Young.
No, I was going to agree that, yeah, exactly. Like that negative self-talk that we all have at points in our life, right? Gets fed by when we let ourselves down with things like this. And so making goals and achieving them isn't about willpower. And I think that's a big part of this message, is like setting yourself up for success, right? Which I love, all the message you're doing.
Yeah, and building that like positive momentum. So, when we do these unattainable things, we're just setting ourselves up to not, build that momentum or, knock ourselves down when we don't need to, because, what we originally set out to do might not be realistic now, but we could definitely build up to it.
Awesome.
All right. So these are just some basic example of habits. So habits are rituals and behaviors that we perform automatically. So walking, showering, brushing our teeth in the morning. Maybe we get stressed and we start biting our nails, or go out for a cigarette, or we cook, or we order takeout. Also, I really like the one listed here at the bottom. We automatically compliment people when, we like something. So all of these are something that, can eventually be automatic, or there's something that we need to strive to work to make automatic. So after, kind of hearing some of these thoughts and going through, what our habits are and this list, I just would like everybody to think of a habit that they want to change most, whether it's adding something positive in their life or subtracting something that you would prefer to do without, that you just can't seem to break that habit. So just kind of keep something in mind that would bring you closer to your vision of health and wellness. All right, so this is a little strategy of creating new habits. So when we think about our habits, there's always an anchor moment. So this is something that's going to remind you to do the behavior. You can also kind of think of it as a trigger. So every, morning when you wake up, if you, use the bathroom, if you immediately brush your teeth after that. So the anchor moment would be, going into the bathroom and then maybe washing your hands. And then after that, you always, brush your teeth. So it's the thing that happens right before you do the behavior. So next is the tiny behavior. So that's when you're actually performing the behavior. And, like it says directly after the anchor moment. And then when we are trying to create a new behavior, it's really important that we celebrate immediately after the new behavior. It can be something as simple as, smiling at yourself in the mirror, or saying a mantra to yourself like, great job, or you did it, you can keep doing it. So when we think about wanting to create a new behavior that we don't have quite yet, we need to link it to an anchor that reminds us and prompts us to do that behavior. So say you wanted to, start exercising and you want to do it first thing in the morning. Maybe laying out your clothes the night ahead can be your anchor moment. And then when you wake up, that's like a prompt to put on those exercise clothes as a visual cue. And then the big thing here with tiny behaviors is they need to be something really small. So with the example of the exercise clothes, you would celebrate right after you put the clothes on. You don't have to go for the 5-mile run, just celebrate that you did it, and you'll be much more likely to, continue on that path for the day of getting your exercise in. It's just enough to celebrate right then and there. And that's going to help create that positive momentum that we talked about.
So says Sierra, I am not the CrossFitter you are, and that is my exact goal right now. And so we'll talk about this one because it works out perfectly. So I'll wear as much of my workout outfit as possible, and then wake up, roll out of bed. And my whole thing is I at least have to put on my sneakers, and then I get to celebrate. And then, but at that point, right, you're already like there. So you're ready to go out and exercise at least a little bit. And then I give myself some options. And then, so there's a lot of research on getting yourself to exercise. And we have a lot of motivators, right? We know it's good for our health. We know it'll make our body look better. It'll make our body feel better. But the thing that actually gets you to exercise, according to the research, is how you feel after you exercise. Have you guys all seen that, like on social media, there's that like the little goofy thing where it's like, I'm going for my stupid walk for my stupid mental health. And then there's people trudging around all the place. So they've shown that right, we move our bodies, we feel better. It's like a no duh, but yet all of us sit all day. And so what you want to do is really attach yourself to the outcome of like, I'm going to feel better right after I do this. And it works so well. And so you want to make sure that you have that attachment to that, like, I'm going to feel better. And part of the celebration is just that exercise right afterward. And so I've gotten past the celebrating that I've tied my shoes, which I'm very proud of. And so what I've done is, so you get dopamine is your main neurotransmitter that gives you that reward boost when you do something, or let's be honest, if you buy something online, you get that little dopamine boost of like, thank you, Amazon, and so we get that from exercise as well. And so what I've been doing is I have a big whiteboard in my office in my house, and I'll just put like a little heart for my dopamine heart of like self-care today. I went out and did my workout. And so every little dopamine heart I have on my whiteboard shows that I did that. So that, if there's a day that I have to go deal with my kids, or I have an early meeting or something, I can't exercise, but I have all those other days to remind me that I did it, So again, tying yourself to like that little celebration is so key, and making sure it's right then and there. It can't be the like swimsuit you bought yourself for June that you think you're going to fit into, because that's not really realistic. It's got to be that like, I'm going to feel great in 30 minutes if I just go do this. So I love all of this.
Yeah, that's a great point. So when we are trying to move ourselves, towards a different vision of health and wellness or a new goal, finding the right behaviors is going to be key for us. So something that works for somebody else, whether it's, exercising or dieting or whatever thing you want to add into your life, it might not work for you. So I want to go over the difference between our aspirations and our behaviors, and then we'll do this little exercise. So an aspiration is something that's going to be a little bit more abstract. Like, I want to have more energy. I want to look better. I want to sleep more. I want to get straight A's, something of that nature that is kind of like intangible. So maybe that might have come up in your vision of health and wellness, of, how you want to feel or something like that. And then behaviors are something that you can do right here, right now, or, at a specific point in time. So I can, prep my meals. I can, meditate for 5 minutes every day. So it's something super concrete, something that you can act upon, and you can basically check off if you did it or you didn't. So we're just going to run through a little exercise right now. If you guys have, a piece of paper out, or, if you can make notes on your phone, whatever is, easiest. So, I'm going to ask you to draw a cloud on a piece of paper, and inside that cloud, you're going to write your aspiration. So this is how you want to feel, how you want to present yourself in the world. What is just going to make you feel like you're living your best self, like, that visualization that we kind of talked about in the beginning. So after you come up with that, you're going to switch and you're going to write 10 behaviors that would lead you to the aspiration. So if your aspiration is, for example, I want to sleep better and have more energy, you could write, I'm going to put blackout curtains on. I'm going to get in my bed at 9 o'clock every night. I'm going to, maybe play white noise. I'm going to exercise in the day so that I'll sleep better at night. So anything at all that will lead you closer to that aspiration. I'll give you guys, a second or so to do that. Does anyone have any questions so far?
I love the suggestion of the live in the moment is one of the things would that be a behavior, do you think, or an I think aspiration, wouldn't you? Live in the moment. Yeah.
Yeah. So and then some of the behaviors around that are like, what can you do to keep yourself more present? Like, put your phone down when you're with other people.
Yeah. So I would say, is it okay to have
So the aspiration is going to be like your main thing in the cloud. And then around the cloud is going to be behaviors that will bring you closer to that aspiration.
So I love the one of sleep. I feel like everyone has one of, like, I have a lot of patients with weight loss being one, or feeling more fit in general would be a good one. You could put exercise as a piece of it, and there could be all sorts of other pieces to that as well. Living in the moment would be a great aspiration though. And then you could, with that, be stress reduction and less like electronics. That would be a great one as well.
So once you have about 10 or more behaviors, this is going to be a little bit of a filtering system to find like your golden behaviors, which are really going to be the most impactful for you. So you're going to put a star under or next to anything that's going to be highly effective in reaching your aspiration. So what do you think is going to be the biggest thing to move the needle for you? So just filter it out and put a star around 4 or 5 that you think that are really going to move you in the right direction. And then once you've done that, you're just going to circle any behaviors that you think you can easily get yourself to do. So say your goal is to exercise more, and you say, I'm going to run 5 miles every day. So you might have put a star around that because it might be really effective, but it might not be a golden behavior for you because it's probably not going to be something you can easily get yourself to do every day.
There's a cute phrase in our office called holistic but realistic. Like, it has to be sustainable or it's not going to be effective, right? Yeah. So that's a perfect example. Yeah.
So then when you have done that, any behaviors that you have a circle and a star around are going to be your golden behaviors. So this is going to be something that is going to move you in the right direction towards, that aspiration, and is something that, realistically you can accomplish, realistically you can put into place.
Awesome. It's interesting how we get so reactive instead of proactive, and just slowing down and being critically thinking of setting yourself up for success instead of I got to start working on this, can really align things and make it a lot more efficient and useful.
All right. And this is just a little bit more information on habits. So habits are formed because they're repetitive patterns in the brain, and they're designed to satisfy our needs in an energy efficient way. So they become pretty automatic for us. So this is a way of our brain conserving energy that allows us to spend more energy on certain tasks, like learning new habits and developing more complex thinking. So the process of actually forming habits does require a lot of energy, but once they are formed, it's actually energy conserving. So it won't be as difficult for us to do them once, our brain has wired them in as habits. All right. So, we're also going to talk about a SMART goal, which is, a way of setting goals that really helps us make them really concrete, less abstract, and gives us, a general roadmap of how to achieve this goal. So it just breaks down the goal into some specific steps where we really put a lot of thought behind them that is going to, help us, stay accountable to it.
I love SMART goals and I love implementing this. Yeah, absolutely.
Alrighty. So we can head over to the S, I think, on the next slide.
Okay, sorry. There we go. Yeah.
No problem. All right. So the S in SMART stands for specific. And we can think about this as a mission statement for your goal. So when we are, creating our SMART goal, we are going to answer these questions like the popular double W questions: who, what, when, where, and why. So really identifying these key components. And I really like to focus in on the why. So a lot of times, and we've kind of talked about this and touched on this, why we want to create this goal, and really linking it back to your vision of health and wellness and, what it could mean to yourself, to your family, to the people around you, if you're accountable to this goal.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then, is this goal attainable and is this realistic? So how important is this goal to you? And what are some of the things you can do to make it attainable? What skills do you need to attain this goal? And kind of like we talked about so far, is that goals are meant to inspire motivation and not be discouraging. So if that means breaking it into a smaller step and have not having it to be like overwhelming, that's going to be a really good place to start. So focus on the positives, focus on the first step. And even if we have a big, large goal that could take, maybe a year, we can even break that down even further to different milestones and, even setting up a SMART goal around each different milestone. And then I just kind of like to foresee any obstacles that will, potentially be in the way at this time. So, and, kind of navigating how to get through them. And I'm sorry, I kind of jumped ahead.
Okay.
So I'm also going to touch on, I kind of was talking about this slide first. My bad.
Yeah. Well, no, attainable and realistic and measurable makes almost so much sense to be together, right? Because
for sure.
You got to make sure that it's something that you're getting better at. And one thing I would really emphasize is, I know pounds on a scale are there, but I feel like that is not a great tool to use to testing your how you feel in your body, like feeling stronger. Absolutely. Or measuring like how much you're exercising, or measuring how many veggies you're eating a day is so much better of a marker than actual pounds. But again, like making it realistic and making it sure it's something that you can monitor so that you see your success, because that's really important to building a new habit.
Absolutely. And then just kind of going off the, there's quantitative and qualitative ways to measure your success. So even if your goal is around, diet and exercise, if you are looking at a quantitative way, it could be, counting vegetables, counting the amount of colors of the rainbow you're eating each day, or the duration of, your workout. And if you're, increasing that over time, as opposed to, just looking at a number, because that, fluctuates for so many different reasons, as opposed to, just your just your weight. And, you know, people's body compositions change, especially, you know, if you're strength training, there can be a lot of fluctuations that, you know, might not be what you're thinking in your head.
Yeah, and you could feel better in your body, but the scale is not reflecting it. So you shouldn't really use that as a marker. Sometimes if you're like, so let's say, because the scale is like the classic one, right? There's also the asking yourself why do you want the scale to be the number it is? And then if they say, well, like, oh, this, well, then why that? And they say, go 5 whys back as to why, at least why you want the thing that you're measuring. If it's something like the scale, because it's saying like, oh, I felt stronger in my body. I knew I was taking better. I was more active back then. I knew I felt better. XYZ was before, you know, I made my children and my career more of a priority, or whatever it is that's going on. And so that you can drill down to like, oh, well, you need to make yourself more of a priority. And that's part of the goals that we're building in, you know?
Absolutely.
So awesome. So we got attainable and measurable. Tell me about timeline.
All right. So when we're thinking about a goal, we definitely want to correlate it with a timeline, and, you know, breaking down each action step and creating, you know, a scenario where you're, you know, if you have something, especially if it's going to take a longer time and it's like a project, correlating, you know, maybe a due date with each action step of this goal, whether it's, you know, taking a course, you know, doing the research for that course, registering for that course, studying, and, you know, scheduling an exam. So each of those would be a milestone, you know, for that specific example and when you want to complete those certain things. So giving yourself a template for, you know, the timeline that you think that this goal can be achievable. And then it's also going to help you keep accountability to yourself. And sometimes people do a little bit better when they have a sense of urgency, you know, assigned to that. So it's definitely a good way to keep yourself on track and to, you know what is a realistic time for each, you know, milestone to occur.
On some level, most of us are procrastinators, and there's a lot of research on scarcity and like how when you have this finite amount of something, you'll make a lot more out of it than if you just had, like, if you have all the money in the world, you don't worry about every $2. But if you only have $2, man, you've stretched that a long way. We've, you know, so that's a great example of like using that timeline as a tool to motivate you.
All right. And that just kind of, oh yeah, you can go ahead if you want.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Just a little bit on motivation. So it's going to be the desire to act on a goal when we are, you know, setting out and have really fresh eyes and are looking towards this goal and we're super excited about it and we know that we're going to achieve it. Motivation is going to be really high. And, you know, unfortunately for some people, it does kind of dwindle. So that is when, you know, these steps that we talked about are going to be really important to keep us on track and keep us accountable. And then, you know, if we are able to ingrain some of these habits that we're working on, the motivation isn't going to be, you know, quite as necessary for those goals because it's going to be something that we're doing a lot more automatically and it's not going to take so much energy and effort. So a lot of it comes, you know, in the front end, and it's super helpful when we have it, but we also have to have those tools for when it's not quite there.
Exactly, like setting yourself up for success.
All right. And then another important thing is to, you know, visualize what we're trying to achieve. So that's, you know, mentally rehearsing an ideal routine, breaking down every step in our head, so that, you know, we kind of see it before it happens and, you know, we are calm in that moment when, you know, it is happening, especially if you're, you know, doing a performance or something like that. So this can also be a really good tool to use, and really trying to use all of your senses. Like, you know, if you're in a visualization and say maybe you're an athlete, maybe you're, you know, thinking about, you know, what the crowd is going to be you know, sounding like if you're going to have any like smells in the air, anything like that, the more realistic you can make a visualization, the more impactful it's going to be for you. And we kind of did a little bit of this exercise in the beginning when we visualized our optimal vision of health and wellness, and maybe even going back and, you know, adding something that you hadn't thought about and just, you know, kind of taking a moment to meditate on that and see, you know, yourself in that situation.
Yeah, the great example one of my colleagues uses on a regular is Michael Phelps, the Olympic gold medalist swimmer. One of his events where he still won, I believe, the gold, he was like, he jumped into the water and his goggles filled up with water. And so he wasn't going to be able to see through any of the entire event. And because he had seen himself and done visualizations so often, and also prepared mentally for any kind of obstacle, he knew how many strokes he was going to need to be able to hit the wall and go back. And that's about as much as I know of swimming, but like, so, but he still won despite his goggles being shot out the gate, because he set that intention and visual. When we talk about like our neurotransmitters are kind of like highways, right? And the neural pathways are like highways, so that the more we can build that pathway a little bit before even it happens, which is crazy to think about, but it's really effective way of setting yourself up for success. So if you know you have to go do something before bed every night, see yourself doing it. And then, you know, if you're going to exercise in the morning, see yourself waking up, not wanting to get out of bed, hitting the alarm clock, but putting your sneakers on and get going, you know, and that will help that pathway move forward.
Awesome. And then, so, you know, when we are, you know, busy in our life, we just wanted to like touch upon some ways to stay on top of our stress. And even these can be some goals that we, you know, create a SMART goal around. So just some things to keep our stress at bay, practicing some breath work and meditation, scheduling downtime for ourselves, just to, you know, get a moment to be, you know, at one with your thoughts and not be running around like a chicken with your head cut off. Because I feel like, you know, in this day and age, a lot of people are just going from one thing to the next thing and never really having that time to decompress. Doing some restorative exercise, eating well, getting plenty of fruits and vegetables, getting enough sleep is definitely a big one. Making time for a hobby. And I know someone else had already started this one, but a gratitude journal. So these are just some, you know, little tricks and tips to stay on top of your stress.
And if one of those speaks to you more than another, that's probably where you might want to start for a SMART goal. Another piece of things is that I love how you phrased it with scheduling downtime, because we have a lot of schedules in our lives. We have work schedules, we have our kids' sports schedules, we have all sorts of schedules in our lives. And self-care is a squishy thing that we think we're going to wedge in between our hard schedules. And it doesn't work that way. A lot of times self-care will fall to the wayside with that. So literally scheduling your workouts, where sometimes you need a personal trainer on hand for that. Sometimes you can like go meet a buddy at the gym, or scheduling a massage, scheduling a meditation class. Those things really will, when you make it a hard thing in your schedule, it will hold up against all the other hard things in your day, and be more likely to be able to be attained. So I love how you said like make that time in your day so that it actually happens. So that's why I'm gonna start scheduling naps midday.
Yeah, that sounds nice.
Yes. Oh, can I go forward?
Awesome. No, I think that is the end.
Okay. Oh, awesome.
Here.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
All
So,
right.
Thank you so much, Sierra, for kind of going through all this. It's so nice to take a moment and thank you everyone for taking a moment to like reflect on how we can create some change and wellness and balance in our lives. And it's lovely to have you as a coach in the community to be able to like hold us accountable and be a third party objective person looking at our lives and helping us kind of prioritize what needs to shift first. So thank you so much for all of this.